When something you've been making starts to get real traction, when people are excited, demand is building, and the whole internet's business brain is telling you that now is the time to scale up, open up more slots, find a more efficient process, make more, grow your thing. I for sure have felt this pull before. And like the demand itself is some type of instruction that we must follow. Like it would almost be irresponsible not to meet that demand. But what happens when the most honest answer to that demand, to all of that pressure, is it's okay? Or dare I go so far as to say, no? What does it mean to look at a real, genuine demand for your work and decide that protecting the joy of making your work matters more than capturing demand? And what does it look like to hold two things at once? Taking your craft seriously as a future business, while also giving yourself permission to build it in a way that actually fits your life right now. Today's conversation with Debi Stoliar of Curiosibee Ceramics sits right in the middle of all that tension. Debi is a full-time graphic designer who makes incredibly detailed, deeply personal, ceramic dog nose sculptures, or, as I lovingly call them and most of the internet now calls them, snoots, that sell out in under a minute when she opens up her slots for custom work. And she does it by releasing only a handful at a time, because that's on purpose. Because she knows herself well enough to know what she can actually sustain and keep the joy of making. We get into a lot in this conversation, how years of seemingly unrelated skills compound into your current creative voice in ways that you can't always see until someone points it out. Why the algorithm's indifference to your work isn't actually a referendum on the work itself, and how holding on to the why behind your making practice can be the thing that keeps it from becoming just another responsibility or another job. Whether ceramics is your full-time gig, whether you're dreaming of it being your full-time gig, whether you're side hustling or side sauntering, or somewhere in between, Debi's experience is a really generous reminder that not scaling up is not the same as not being serious. And that sometimes the most intentional business decision you can make is deciding exactly how much of a good thing is enough. Let's get into it all right after this brief word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by The Community, your creative business support system with over 100 makers from around the world, with both the practical education you need to make a living from the things you make, found in our masterclasses on topics like finances, marketing, and SEO, plus the emotional support of fellow makers who truly understand what it's like to try and make a living from the things we make. It's like having both a business school designed specifically for artists and a team of colleagues who actually get what you're going through. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Hi everyone, this is Melissa of MWY Pottery. I've been a member of the Makers Playbook community for over a year and a half, but not consecutively. I first joined when I was relatively new to selling my ceramics and wanted more support in doing that. This year, I joined a different ceramics mentorship program to focus on my artistic development and paused my community membership to decrease business expenses, with the plan to rejoin the community at several points throughout the year for the master classes. But who was I kidding? I didn't even last a month. I missed the community and the people so much, especially our co-working sessions, so I just rejoined for the year. So if you're a parent like me and you're signing your kid up for summer camps right now, and you don't even hesitate to pay the same cost for a 1-year community membership for a 1-week K-pop Demon Hunters dance camp for your child, I kid you not, but you hesitate to treat yourself, consider this an invitation to learn more. Feel free to ask me questions on Instagram at MWY Pottery, and I hope you join us soon.
Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Maker's Playbook, the show where we talk all about what it's really like to make a living from the things you make. I'm your host, seasoned entrepreneur of 14 years, Rebecca Ikes Cara. As I started to say just before we hit record, I'm really not worried if there's any dog noises on this recording because it would just be on theme, on brand, on all the things.
It's on brand. It's part of the ambiance of just me as a person.
Now, the question is, do I introduce you as the Snoot Queen or do I introduce you as Debbie? Like, I didn't actually make this decision ahead of time.
Um, I kinda like the Snoot Queen. I mean, I believe John coined that for me, and I'm just going with it, but, it kinda feels weird for me to say it, so you have to say it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You can't call it by yourself. Although I will say, before I actually make you introduce yourself, there was I don't know that we'll ever be able to top the moment that was being next to you at Nsika, someone seeing your hair clip of a snoot and being like, "Oh, you have a snoot," and me immediately being like, "She is the snoot."
That's me. It's my work.
So, with
Yeah,
that
that
being said,
that was
officially,
charming.
hey Debbie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
And now I'm going to actually make you introduce yourself instead of just referring to you as the Snoot Queen for the rest of the duration of this conversation.
Love it. Hi, my name is Debi Stoliar. I go by curiosibee.art on Instagram. I am just a person who loves clay and dogs, and yeah, I do it's clay is not my full-time gig, so I do graphic design as my full-time gig. I work for an agency, but clay is kind of like my night thing.
It's funny how many graphic designers there are that are in Click, because Kenny's also a designer. I don't know if you'd call himself a graphic designer. He's definitely more of a developer, I suppose. But still, it's like those of us that had the like very digital arts world being like, okay, we need to get off the computer. At least that's
Yeah.
what it was for me.
I mean, I think there's something tactile about clay that just really if you're sitting in front of a computer all day, like moving pixels around, something about like having your hands in clay is just like grounding and special.
100%. 100%. And also, I'm just going to go straight into the snoots because that's the obvious subject of conversation. You didn't always make dog themed pottery. Like this came, I don't know how long you were like ideating and iterating and whatever other words start with eyes about thinking about this concept. How did you get to the point where you are now? Let's just like, however detailed you want to go back.
Okay. So I've been doing a lot of carving in my ceramics for a while. After last Sika, I learned this new technique of, pushing out from the inside of a thrown vessel and then sculpting it on the outside. I came back home with that. I learned that from Kyle Guymond. He had demoed it at Nsika. I came back from that and I had so many ideas in my head. And I tend to have a lot of like organic, natural things in my work, leaves and just organic carving, stuff like that, waves. But I wanted to kind of bring something new that I loved using this technique and also integrating the carving that I was doing. So I started playing around with different themes. And one of the first things that I did were the eyeballs that I was doing the push out and then the carving on and the painting. And they were like very elaborate, took a long time. They kind of fell flat. Like I loved them and people that saw them in person seemed to really gravitate towards them. But like it wasn't getting a whole lot of traction, right? So, and it's not that I was necessarily looking for something that was like attention grabbing. It helps keep me going when I get a lot of positive feedback about something, right? So an idea that I kind of had in the back of my head using this dark clay that I love to use is I had done some pieces that were carved and had like black on black. So I have a little tiny snoot in my hand here. So you get this like beautiful velvety dark finish to the clay. And then when you put a black glaze on it, it just looks so cool. And there's like a little bit of a contrast there. And I kept thinking of a dog's nose, right? And like dogs, I have two dogs. They're big in my world. We do dog sports together. Like they're just like a big part of my life. And I remember I was kind of sitting there looking at Whiskey's nose one day and I'm like, I kind of feel like I could do something with this idea, right? So I had this, I had this cup that was kinda wonky in my damp box, and I'm like, "I'm gonna use it to experiment with stuff."
Whiskey knows you're talking about him, just for the
Did
record.
you hear that? That was actually Potato.
Well,
Whiskey's underneath me. Potato's, like, wanting to go outside.
so Potato's offended that you're not talking about that the inspiration
Yeah.
didn't come from his nose.
I'm sorry, Potato, but I do like, I've sculpted both of their noses, like, the non-customized ones are either whiskey or potato. I do them both. But anyways, just thinking about how the glaze and this clay like played together, and I kind of wanted to see what I could do with that. So I sculpted Whiskey's nose, and I'm like, this is like turning out better than I thought. It's like it something starts to gain momentum when it's like turning out like just as good as you envision it or even better, right? And I just thought it was a one-off thing. I kind of posted it. People were like, wow. And the original one that I did had a lot smaller carving to the nose. And it took me like 2.5 or 3 hours to carve. And I'm like, I got to start making adjustments because if I'm going to make another one, like they can't take that long to carve. Like the whole process of them takes a really long time. I think the custom ones take me 8 to 9 hours. And part of that is like kind of figuring out like every custom one is a different color, different texture to the dog. So there's a lot of like thought that goes behind like how to do that. But yeah, it just started from there and it kind of evolved and it started getting traction and attention. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I love a little bit of attention. So like that always drives you to keep going. And you're like, this idea is really hitting on a lot of like emotions that people have with their dogs. And I just think like dog noses are fascinating, right? They're investigative and they're intimate and they're expressive and they're curious. And I have such a curiosity of like exploring like themes and different and trying new stuff out. So I don't know, it just kind of felt like it was really something that fit in with me and the kind of work that I wanna do. And because I have such a connection with my dogs and doing dog sports with them, it was also something very special to me as, like, a love letter to my dogs and, like, that connection that we have together, like, doing the work and, like, doing sun sports together. So, yeah, that's how the snoots came about.
That's amazing. And it's also one of those, like, I think for me, the perfect example of when I first saw your work, whether it was in the community or whether it was a photo Q&A or something, we were talking about photography. You had these really intricate carvings. You've always had that, but you were doing like translucent porcelain kind of stuff, which was still beautiful. Like I would look at it and be all like amazed by the detail and it was beautiful, but it didn't like I wasn't calling you by a nickname.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it was aesthetically pleasing, it was well done, it was lovely, but there's something about this, like, finding that Venn diagram of something else in your life that then connects with your making, and then also it's a three-circle Venn diagram of what connects with other people and what lights you up to talk about. Like, the energy you bring to I mean, any of us that love dogs, presumably. Sorry, cat people.
I was just gonna say that. I'm like, "Sorry, cat peeve." I've gotten a lot of requests for cat noses.
I'll let you
I've
make that
done
decision.
one. I don't know. It's something that I think I wanna explore, but, like yes. Sorry,
Totally
go
different
on.
kind of nose. Totally different. Like they're not cold and wet. They're scratch. Anyways, I'm gonna get canceled by the cat people. We got to stop. Um, I love all the creatures except snakes. I'm super scared of snakes. But anyway, it was like it was interesting to see this progression of I would say abstract carving, and then sometimes you were doing floral, but like you know less personal, I guess we would call it into the dragon eyes, which are so crazy detailed, but also still like, I don't know, you weren't doing anything else mythical or gamey or mythology or, whatever. I don't know. Like they're on their own. And then all the skills came together, both the carving and the modification that you're doing with the eyes all came together into the snoots. And then the reaction to that also lines up with like the excitement you had, the way it all comes together. And then the response publicly is just like tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to interject though. They're not
Yes.
dragon eyes. They're
What?
crocodile eyes.
Oh, I mean, technically, crocodiles are dragons.
Yes, that is very fair. There's a story behind the whole crocodile eye thing, and I've called that body of work like my crocodile tear cups or, mugs, whatever I'm making at the time. And I haven't been ready to tell that story of like what's behind them, like the reason behind them yet. And like, I think in the future I might go back to them. It's, there's a story behind it and I'm just not ready to share it with the world. But I feel like the noses just had a much more visceral story and something that's a lot easier to tell. And it's a lot more joyful than the crocodile eyes were. That like, it just really captured people. My dogs are at my feet, like throwing balls at me right now.
I heard it and I love it. Hi, Whiskey. I was not planning on making this a video podcast, but now I feel like I have to. Because they have to get their due.
Look at this sweet face. I know I love you, but I love you,
Right.
baby. I
was like-
gotta work.
Right? He's like, but it's about me, so therefore I should be there.
Yeah,
I love it
it's
so
like,
much.
I'm your manager, and you're yeah.
Yeah, we call Hendrix the quality control manager.
Yeah. Yeah, they have to check out every snoot I make. So as long as it passes muster, then it's good to go.
Yep. Oh my gosh, I'm now completely distracted and have no idea where I was going with what we were talking about because I wanted to boop his snoot. What can I say? But it's just, I don't think there's a single person who would argue the fact that all of us appreciate positive feedback, right? Like knowing other people are excited about what we're making. You can't, as much as we can try and talk about like make what you love and then figure it out later, focus on what you want to make. Like there's a reason we have almost 100 people coming together on the internet in the community that you're a part of, because you can't just like do that in a vacuum for ages and either not have somebody give you, feedback or see it or, just to sit there by yourself and make and not have any kind of feedback, whether it be online, whether it be in person, a loved one, a family member, another colleague who actually knows something about what you're making. I just don't think I just don't think it's realistic. I think we need some kind of back and forth. And it's finding that balance of, and maybe you're starting to experience this, like finding that balance of like the excitement of where that overlaps, but also not letting it take you away from like what you want to continue to explore. That was not a fully fleshed out question, but I think you know where I'm going. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I kind of feel like art is, to me at least, because I don't want to speak for everyone, but art is a way of like expressing things that I feel, right? And then like part of that is also the connection of like, how does that land with somebody else? And how does that affect them too, right? There's an act of like getting that idea out of my head and like making something. And then that's not the end of it. Then it's the curiosity of like how other people interpret it, right? How other people connect to it. And because it's such a personal thing, in a way, it's how other people connect to you. So, I think that connection drives the desire to make more of it and put more of it out in the world. Does that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's probably also why sometimes it can feel so scary to share what we're making.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And why it
100%.
can feel so disappointing, like, when you do share something on something as fickle as Instagram and you don't get a lot of response, it can feel like, I don't know, a personal affront, a personal attack, like, it feels so personal when in reality, how that works is so separate from
Yeah.
how people might otherwise react to connecting with your work if they were experiencing it in a different way.
Yeah, but
I don't
there's
know.
also, like, the algorithm, really manipulates what, like, comes in
Yep.
front of you, right? It's not very at least at right now, it's not really beneficial to, like, push out artist work. People like, the algorithm's really pushing stuff that, like, makes people mad or, gets some sort of an engagement to keep them scrolling. It kinda sucks because as artists, you're like, "I just wanna put some of my joy out there," and it's not necessarily, like, something that's gonna keep people scrolling on the app, so it just doesn't get pushed.
But, like, that perspective being so important when we are, like, very naturally and humanly yeah, that's an adjective now. Um, you know, the natural thing for us to do is want to share the thing that we're passionate about, what we're making, and and look for that positive reinforcement that there is an interest in it, that other people are passionate about what you're passionate about. So then the place to go to for that is the internet because that's how our brains have been trained. And yet the internet is not necessarily built for that the way it is now with algorithms and social media because, the way that works is totally different. It's a business model onto itself in terms of how the very much for-profit companies of Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and whoever else are going to think about their business and make money is gonna be different than the way we just want to share what we do, if you're not thinking of it down the road of, like, a marketing strategy or a business model. Like, you're just like, "I'm excited about this thing, and I wanna see if other people are excited about it too," you know? So it's like having those layers of reminders for ourselves when we do share something to not it's weird, like, I'm stumbling over my words because it's a paradox. It's something we all take really seriously because we're really passionate about what we do and what we're making, and yet at the same time, when we put it out into the world on something as fickle as an algorithm-based social media platform, you have to completely not take it seriously whatsoever.
Yeah. And it's
You
kinda
know?
funny that it's called, like, social media, and you're like, "Yeah, but it's not social anymore. It doesn't feel social anymore." But I think that's why it's important to have, like, community to, like, reach back to, like, people that you see in person and go to art shows and, like, have people that you've met in person and not just those online connections to, like, get that reinforcement too.
Yep. Yep. Or just the reality check of like, yes, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
You're progressing. You're finding, you're still continuing to find what you want to find and in the work that you want to make. And like none of that lines up with what you need for something to be crazy popular on the internet. Like those aren't the
Yeah.
same thing. So
Well, and it was funny,
anyway.
because kinda going back to, like, the progression of what I've been creating, I was talking to Alicia, during one of our hangouts for the community about that I feel like I don't have, like, a style or, a through thread to my work, right? And she's like, "What are you talking about? Like, the carving, like, the way that you carve stuff from like your very early work very clearly has translated through." And it's like I just somebody had to tell that to me, and I had to step back and be like, yeah, actually, that's right. Like I now see that, but it takes somebody else that's close enough to you to know your work and know you, but far enough away to not be like,
In
too
it.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
To kind
I'm
of
laughing because I wasn't at that hangout, and as soon as you started saying it, I was like in my brain, I was like, "Yeah, but your carvings." And then the words came out of your mouth. Yep,
But
yep.
you don't see it, right? Because you're like, "Ah, this is something else, different clay body."
Right.
It's like, but no, there is a through line. Like everything that I've done kind of informs the next thing that I do.
Yes. And I don't think I don't think you could have jumped steps. You know what I mean? I don't think you could have. I think a lot of us are, you know, always looking for like, and this is the natural human condition. How do we avoid the pain and get to the good part faster, right? It's what we want in anything in life. It's easier to buy a different kind of pillow in order to get better sleep than like dig into your brain around like what's keeping you awake at night and, and whatever. That was a terrible example, but you know what I mean.
Yes, but what I do want to say, because you're like, you have to get through the pain, right? But
Oh, right.
a lot of times, like, it doesn't have to be pain. Like, you don't, like, I think people are so focused on the end result that they forget to enjoy what they're doing. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then find something else to do. Like, I spend so many hours carving because I enjoy the monotony and the like doing that same pattern over and over and over again. And it's something that it took me a while to realize, but early on in my career, for the first agency that I worked at, I worked in the studio department making paper comps a lot. That was part of my job. And I lived with an X-Acto knife in my hand, right? And it's like, there is something about that rhythm that like has translated through the work that I do now. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I would be nearly as good as at carving if I didn't have that background.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I'm also going to back you up to explain what a paper comp is just to make you and I both feel old.
Okay. So good point, good point. When you have a printed piece, right, before it goes off to the printer, especially if you have a larger piece that has folds and tabs and stuff like that, you need to make sure that that piece flows well together. Everything's aligned, it's easy to use, the tabs are the right size, whatever. So back in the day, agencies, I mean, they'll still make paper comps, but I don't think is as common as it was like 20 years ago when I was doing this. They will have somebody in the studio department that essentially, like, what I would do is take the art director files, clean them up, make them print ready. And before they went off to the printer, I would print them out at 100% on these large sheets of paper, cut them down and make them into a book. So there was a lot of like cutting, pasting, like making sure things were aligned to create essentially a mock-up of the final printed product. So the art director could take a look at it and be like, okay, yeah, everything looks good, or no, I don't like how this lays, this tab doesn't align, whatever. So yeah, and part of the reason why I got stuck doing so, not stuck, I enjoyed it. To me, it was a puzzle to put it all together. And like most people in the studio hate that kind of work, but there's something about it that like I really enjoyed. It would take hours to make one mock-up and be your pride and joy for the day, right? But yes, that is what a paper comp is.
Mostly wanted to make you explain that because I just remember how you could put so many hours into a project and be like, yes, this is perfect. It's all ready to go. And then you had to take it to a printer. And whether that was the physical printer in your own office or whether that was an outsourced printer as in a service provided, that was always the worst step because you'd have everything already, you thought it was perfect, and then you'd go to do one test and something would screw up and you were like, well, shit.
Oh,
And back you went.
yep, that tab did not align. The things weren't right.
Something.
I didn't have my pages in multiples of 4s.
Oh, God, yes. Yes. Somebody being like, well, can't we just add one page? No, we can add 4 pages, but no, we can't add one. That's not how the physical piece of paper works. There's a back and a front and a whole thing. But
There's
I
a lot.
digress. This is just taking me back because also I think the thing that drove me out of graphic design the most was the fact that we would have so I did a lot of publication stuff, and you would have a hard deadline from the printer that in order to get the thing in time for whatever event or for whatever purpose, the file had to be by the printer by this date and time, period.
Yeah.
And the people I was waiting on content for the publication I had to put together on a weekly basis would never actually follow the deadlines I gave them. And so, like, you still had to finish the publication to get it to the printer, but you didn't have the time that you had requested to actually get the thing done. And of course, you still got it done because otherwise, like, the thing I didn't know in my 20s was I should have just, like, been like, well, you didn't hit the deadline, so your thing's not in there, and sorry about you. But, you don't have that wherewithal to be able to say that to someone who's seen as a superior in your early stage career. So anyway, this has nothing to do with dogs or clay, but
Well, and I remember I used to work for a magazine a long, long time ago. And we would have two deadlines, right? Like the final deadline, and then the deadline that we would give all the advertising, like people that were
mhm.
sending in their advertising to put into the magazine because we couldn't move, like, we were scheduled at a printer, right? Like, we had
Yep.
these gigantic runs, and you cannot move that date. You were slotted in for a certain amount of time, and if you miss that, like, sorry, no
Yep.
magazine this month. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so this is so interesting, though, to think about how much of, you know, people maybe are going to think the way your day job translates to your making practice is more direct than a lot of others. But I would argue that these types of lines can be found in any profession, right? Like, I think about another community member, Nadine, who has a background in pharmacy, and the speed in which she can research and iterate glaze research is insane because she's used to going through the process of, like, I'm gonna mess up all the terms now because I'm obviously not a medical professional, but, like, it's a comfortable process for her, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm assuming most people would think, like, oh, pharmaceutical research to clay, like, there's no Venn diagram, and it's like, well, actually there is. So I'm bringing this up to point out, like, even though you are still in the arts on the 9 to 5 day job, like, the fact that there's disparate skills that also still come into how you were able to come to your style and the snoots that you're making now. This isn't ending in a question mark, it's ending in a period, but just take it in whatever direction you would like. My commentary.
I agree. Ceramic is such an expansive medium. There's so many different things that you can do with it that there's you can pick up things that you've learned from any industry and apply them in some way to ceramics. And it doesn't have to be the art side of things. Like, working as an art director, like, yes, that was very helpful. But even earlier than that, like when I was working at a studio, like my paper comp background, like, helped with the carving. But like anybody a writer that has like a background in storytelling or like how to
Mm,
craft, a cohesive narrative, like that can help you in this artwork. Or, the very scientific minded, like pharmaceutically trained person that can like is super comfortable with formulating glazes and measurements and like, testing things out. So, yeah, just about anything can really. And the cool thing is, so many different things can like go into what you create in ceramics that like we all make very different things, right? And there's so many different things that you've learned in your past that can help inform what you do in ceramics. That's kind of what, even if we're working with very similar themes, you end up with different results because we all bring so many different experiences.
100%. And I always remind myself too, like, those experiences are crucial to whatever it is you're making now. I think there's also something I hear a lot from people being like, "Oh, I wish I would have stayed with this when I loved it when I was a teenager, or done this 10 years ago, or, whatever, all those like lost time wishes." And yet there's no way you would have come to the power of the snoots that you make now without the experience that you had years before, right?
Yeah,
Like, it all
100%.
compounds upon itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that I've done in the past informs the moment that I am in now and like has helped me in some way, even if I can't see it now,
Hmm.
right? Even if I don't see the through line now, all of my experiences have gotten me to this point, this very moment in time to like be where I'm at.
Which I was harping on because I feel like you are in this moment right now that I would say a lot of people dream about, of like that excitement of that Venn diagram we already talked about, of something you love to do, hobby, whatever your life, something you love to make, the skill that you're also good at that you make with a level of proficiency aligning with the thing people in the world are also excited about and want to have and get excited about and want to talk about and, you know, not to say also just the commercial side of it, like people wanting to buy them and you not being able to keep up with custom snoots. I mean, you're keeping up with them, don't get me wrong. It's just they're popular.
They are. And I kind of feel like I had this moment after Nsika where I got home and I'm like, all right, like, gotta get making more snoots. And I had done so much up until Nsika. My work's been super busy. We're having a launch. And, I was making ceramics because I did the demo at the bushcraft booth and they're like, hey, bring your stuff like you could sell things. So I was like making and making and then all the like freebie like magnets and hair clips and whatever that I had made. Like I was busy.
The how many hundred? Yeah.
153.
Uh-huh.
Um
Meanwhile, my freebie was stickers that I ordered and were delivered to me. I really got to up the
I'm
ante
a
next
little
year.
extra. I can't help it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm obsessed and in love with my snoot magnet that's on the fridge. I'm very grateful. I just also worry about your sleep.
Yeah, but my body told me you need to take a break. So
Mhm.
I've actually I'm like in this constant fight in my brain of like, okay, I'm kind of burnt out, not with the snoots, but just in general, like just so much happening in my life. And this year has been like not the greatest. Like a lot of stuff has happened, and Whiskey was kind of sick for a while. He's had like several flare ups of being sick. I got to a point where my brain is like, you need to take a break, and it made me realize that if I don't schedule those in for myself, my body's gonna quit and be like, "Nope, we're not doing anything." So I've had a hard time, like, getting going back into the rhythm of making just because, like, my mind just needs a break. So
Mhm.
it's a good reminder to myself, like, even though I feel like, "Okay, now is the time to, like, put my foot on the gas, I can't let up." I have to. I have to take a break and kind of take it easy on myself and give myself a little bit of time to play with, I've had like new ideas coming up and the snoots are going to continue, but like I need to be okay with the fact that like just me cannot make snoots for everyone that wants one, even as much as I want to. It's just not possible. So it is what it is. And I'm trying to figure out like what direction that's going to go, how much time I wanna devote to, like, doing snoots versus trying out new ideas, but yeah, it's been crazy, and I'm, like, super duper grateful that I'm in the situation of, like, things are happening, and I love that I get to connect with people. I've had, like, so many people send me pictures of their dogs and be like, here's, little Rufus and like he passed away a few months ago and you like your snoots are so special and it just reminds me of him and blah blah blah. It's like it's so heartwarming just being able to connect with people and seeing the love that people have for their dogs and that's why they want a snoot of their own. So yeah, I'm beyond the moon to be where I'm at right now. I just have to remind myself that, like, I can only do so much and I'm not going to be able to fulfill, like, everyone's request for a snoot. But here we are. I guess that's what makes them special, too.
That's true. I mean, that's That's a conversation Francesco and I had a lot in terms of like, when we started working with restaurants and things like that. It was kind of like, okay, well, is this sustainable? How is this going to work? I'm looking around at all these people who pretty much have just defaulted to Jigger and Jolly when it comes to restaurants. And it was like, for him, it was like, no, no, no. The point is, not everybody's going to be able to have it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the point. The point is that I'm using my hands, that I'm not using all of those other tools, because the point is that that means it's going to take a certain amount of time. That means that there's only going to be a certain amount of inventory. And that's part of it. That's not the thing to overcome or to solve for. That is kind of the core of it in his mind. So I was like, right. Totally
I
different thing.
I can see that, and I could agree with that, because I've had, like, people ask me, like, "What if you make molds?" And it's not the same, because for me, like, the joy of making it, I have a full-time job. Like, I don't need to do ceramics. I'm doing this for the joy of it, right? And, like,
Mm,
it's a bonus that, like, I can sell my work and that other people get to enjoy, and that makes me happy too. But at the end of the day, if I'm making snoots out of a mold, it's not the process that I wanna do, right? Like, I'm doing the ceramics because I love to. And for the amount of time that they take me, I'm not charging enough, right? It's like the money that I make kind of helps offset the cost of the materials and the studio costs and stuff. But like at the end of the day, if I was trying to do this for the money, like this would not be a good business model, right? I'm doing it for the joy of making what I'm making, and in the hopes that if in the future I cannot do my job any longer, because let's be real, like with AI, there's a lot that's changing in my industry, and I don't know what the future is going to hold for that. I don't know what my job's going to look like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And originally I was like, okay, well, ceramics could be kind of like my early retirement plan, or maybe some making some money on the side, like when I'm done with my career. But like at this point, I don't I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to still enjoy my job
mm.
in the future. So I'm trying to position myself of like I'm learning as much as I can, and also getting somewhat of a being known and gathering a following for my art. So if I needed to pivot, I could.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that's the smart thing to do right now, but who knows what the future holds, right?
What I also appreciate about that is like saying that in tandem with you're doing this for the joy of it is a hard place to hold those two differences, because I see like, and they can go together, because I see so many people who fall into oh, I need to be doing this, or I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, who do have another job, who aren't full time in the craft, but because of what they see online, feel like they should be doing all of these things, right? Like, I know I have sat here and said, you should have an email list. Now, I will still hold on to that as truth. But, in terms of posting online, in terms of marketing, in terms of promotion, in terms of, like you were saying, finding a more quote unquote efficient way to make something instead of doing it the way that you just like to do, it's a hard place to hold between the two of both. I'm going to take this seriously. I'm passionate about this and I'm taking it very seriously as a potential business, while at the same time, I can still pay my bills regardless. And therefore, I can also breathe and take gaps and choose the model that works for my own joy, not that is for efficiency and finances and, demand and the traditional, what I would say is the traditional kind of consumer retail shopping experience, if you will. Because, yeah, if you were just turning out snoots over and over again in a mold, like it would lose that personal, this is like you took the time to look at the details of my dog's nose and capture each individual little thing And therefore now this is unique to that particular person or that particular pup, rather than like, well, they're all basically the same shape and here we're going to push them out and there we go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when our voices change, anyone listening should just realize there's a dog on the screen. And that's why all of a sudden I'm talking like this.
He likes to crawl up on my lap, and he's trying so hard to get me to play ball with him.
Right?
I
I miss Hendrix could fit on my lap for like a month and then he was too
Oh,
big.
he's a big
So,
boy.
because he was 22 pounds when he was 4 months old.
Oh, wow.
So by
This
5
guy's like
months, it was
18 and
kind
a
of
half
done.
pounds. Yeah.
I'll have to send you a picture of him curled up on my lap from those
Oh.
early days. It was a very short period of time. But anyways, I digress.
Wait,
I-
you had a very important thread and I lost it. Where were we?
Thanks,
Squirrel.
Whiskey.
Thanks, Whiskey.
We were talking about holding that space between,
Oh, yeah.
like, you are taking this seriously. You do see a future where potentially you would potentially become reliant on this as income. So you want to build things in a way that makes sense and that also acknowledge the time and the effort and the craft and the skill that goes into making what you're making. At the same time, you don't have to make it. Whiskey, your nose is on the speaker, bud.
Sorry.
I'm going to keep it in. We're not editing that out. Like I said, it's on brand. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Yeah, holding that space between both, you have the space and the time to make decisions that are the just focused on joy and focusing on what you want versus because you have another job. And at the same time, you are taking this very seriously and building it as a business, even though it's, not currently paying for your healthcare.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to remember why you started ceramics, right? A lot of us started ceramics once we had a full-time career and it was an escape, something to do with our hands and to be creative. And I think that it's too easy to lose sight of that joy of it. And you start having a little success in selling what you're making. And you forget that, you were making because you wanted to, have a hobby that, made you feel more embodied and in touch with the physicality and the tactile nature of clay, right? And then all of a sudden you start selling and it becomes the second career. And I think a lot of people just forget why they got into it in the first place. So I think it's just important to always keep that in the back of your mind and let that guide how you move forward with it, whether you want to keep it as that or somewhere in the middle or have it be a full-time hobby. There are ways of kind of looking at what your future goals are while keeping sight of why you love ceramics. Otherwise, people just burn out, right? And it gets to be too much to hold two full-time careers at once if you're trying to do both. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of skating that line of I really want to avoid getting burned out because, I have ADHD. I'm a hobby jumper. I've had so many hobbies in my life and ceramics has had a very long lasting effect so far because there's so many different things that you could do with it, right? And it can be as scientific as you want, as artistic as you want. There's so many different things to do. But I also don't want to burn myself out in doing too much. So I have to be mindful of I have to keep my day job and have healthcare, but also I want to be successful as an artist with ceramics. Even though it's not paying the bills, it might in the future. But how do I make that a long-lasting commitment to my artwork?
There's an idea there and I lost it. Mm.
I
I'm
thought I
really
left you
losing
speechless for a second, but
losing my train of thought here. No, you were talking about, gosh, usually it happens once or twice, but man, I'm just every single time tonight. Um,
it's the Perry, man. It's tough.
Honestly, we should start a whole separate podcast about that. Just Potters with Perry. Is that what we're going to call it? Ooh, yeah.
Okay. Dude,
I'm
there's
here
so
for that.
many of us, right? Like,
I know.
the stereotype of, like, the
No boys
40-year-old
allowed.
woman that, like, takes the ceramics class, like,
With the sensible shoes and the Subaru? Hi. It's me.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Okay, I'm just gonna hard right turn for us. I mean, I feel like everything you just said is a nugget of gold for anyone to remember. So I'm like, man, I need to be like, okay, everybody needs to get to minute 42 or whatever number this is gonna come at, because like that's the crux. That's the crux of this whole conversation to me. But as you know, because you've been able to sneak a peek since you are also in the community, you know that we post the fact of who I'm interviewing before it happens. So you've been able to see some of these questions, which, side note, Tim decided that that was cheating because you could see the questions ahead of time. Um, Also,
Sorry,
this should
Tim.
give people some insight into just the type of humor that's happening inside of the community. I'm just going to go in order that they were posted. Jessica's
Okay.
question was, how much design and testing time did it take you before you got the snoots just how you want them? This also presumes they're just how you want them already.
Right? That's a big assumption. I like to let things evolve over time. I think to get to where the snoots are now, like in the shape, in how I wanted to shape the noses and do the fur and stuff, it probably took around 10, 15 iterations to get them pretty close to where I'm at now. But like, everything evolves over time, right? And every time I make them, like, there's always a little bit of something different that I do or a little detail that I add. And every time, like, this is why they take so long, right? Because it's like, and I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm going to start making, like, pumping them out and getting faster and faster. No, I just get more detailed. I just add more stuff. I just add another step.
Once you make the first step easier, you're like, okay, well, there was 6 steps now. Now I have time to add the 7th that I wanted to do because I made step 1 faster.
It's more like 80 steps, but yes.
Well,
yes.
yeah, I was hedging away because there is that is also Tim's actual question was how long the waiting list is and how are you keeping up, which we talked a little bit about, but I also want to hijack Tim's question and talk a little bit about like how that works for you on the mental side of things as well, because there can be a lot of pressure of like, okay, there is this demand, so now I need to do this and capture this excitement, or like I have to get them done in X amount of time, when really you could communicate with people like this is the expectation, this is how long it's going to take. I don't have a date for you. If you're
Yeah.
okay with that, then I can slot you in. I don't know. You tell me.
So I don't have a waiting list because that would scare me. Like there's a lot of demand, but I release a handful of slots for custom ones at a time, because if I did more than that, I it would just be overwhelmed. Like, I know my brain, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I have to make 60 snoots or whatever." Like, there's no way. It would just feel like an insurmountable thing. And I have this problem with my brain that, like, when something becomes too much and I no longer want to do it, there's nothing I could do to get my brain to focus on that task again. It's impossible. So, in order to keep myself sane, I have a mailing list, right? And I release the slot. Like, I will let my mailing list know, hey, this date on this time, they're going to go live. Go at it. The amazing thing, last time I did that, they've been selling out like faster and faster. Last time I had a drop for customs, they sold out in under a minute, which is bonkers to me. But yeah, it's kind of like, I hate to have like people fight for the slots, right? But like, that's what it has to be in order to keep myself sane.
And I love that you are keeping those slots so limited, right? Because we're talking like what, 5, 10 It's
Yeah,
not.
the last time that I did customs, it was right before Inseeka's when I dropped them, and I have it on my website that it takes 6 to 8 weeks
Mhm.
to have it done. I did 4, but I've done, like, 6 and 8 before. So, it just, like, however many I feel like I could take on at the moment is how many I release. Like, it's just I can't make myself go any faster.
I think this is the perfect example. This is what I was thinking of earlier. This is the perfect example of how different we can choose to set up our businesses as makers, as the reality of what we do is so different from the business advice of the internet that's thinking about e-commerce and, drop shipping and all of these other things that are like are supply and demand in a completely different way than what we have with supply and demand. Like, I think it's just like a fabulous example of like, it does not, you don't have to then, the demand is such that, you don't have to decide, okay, now that the demand's there, I guess I have to, I have to open this up for 20 at a time or 30 at a time. And then when the demand stays, it's totally overwhelming and it would fall apart as opposed to like you knowing yourself, like each of us getting to know ourselves well enough, giving us the space to know ourselves well enough to say, this is what I can do. Take it or leave it. This is what I can do. And that works. And that, people aren't going anywhere. They're definitely like, I'm on the mailing list. I'm waiting in line for that snoot drop, like 100%. And then there's something exciting also, like if you do have to wait for something, like if you don't get that first drop and you wait for the next one, then that thing also becomes all that more cherished and special than if you were producing 100 every 3 months and turning them out to where, oh, I'll just replace this later, like that's a
Yeah.
completely different object also, and our like connection with that object.
I feel like it makes them feel more special too. And then, it's like the whole like for marketing, right? Like something that's harder to get is more desirable. And I'm not putting like a false like uh what would you call it?
Snoots and bikinis. No, you're not creating a false oh shoot. We both know how this
Yeah.
we have all these terms for so long in our brains. Welcome to this episode of the Maker's Playbook where two women with perimenopause try to complete a full thought. Will
You
they get to the end or will they not? Stay tuned. Basically, like, you're not manipulating people
right.
into there being a false sense of supply and demand or something
Correct.
like that. Like let's say the way PlayStation or Apple with the new iPhone, like there is no limit to how many iPhones they could make. They purposefully release a set amount on a launch day to drive up the excitement and the demand. And if you would just wait a few weeks, you wouldn't have to be sitting in line outside at 3 a.m. or whatever people do.
Right, right. And I mean that's a manufactured example of like creating that supply that cannot be filled so people want it more, right? I'm not doing that on purpose. But it does work in my favor. It's like, yeah, they're special and they're hard to get and I'm doing the best I can to make them. But I'm also setting those boundaries because at the end of the day, because I have a full-time job, I get to decide, is this still bringing me joy, right? Like, do I
Mm.
still want to do this? I have that option, which is great for now. I don't know how long I will have this job given everything that's been happening. But for now, the most important thing is for me to still find joy in making the art because I think that's what makes part of it special too for other people, right? I make it with a lot of joy. And I think that kind of translates in like what people get. It's special because you could tell that the person who's, who made this like really enjoyed the process of it. So, yeah, all that to
100%.
say, I totally lost track of where we were at. But yes, I
We'll go
think
back
that
to the
answers the
questions.
question. Yeah, back to the question.
So Jessica also asked if they're, talking about the pros and cons of having that separate full-time job, which I think we were just covering. But
Yeah, yeah, it definitely gives you that freedom of of being able to explore and choosing your art for the joy of making the art instead of for what's going to sell and
Mm.
fulfilling, all those orders that you have.
In my mind, also, like, the time it took you to come to this iteration of what you're making and to get to the snoots, right? If you were reliant on income and your abstract carvings sold well enough, would you have been able to carve out the time, pun not intended, but now it is, to your own creative practice to, like, explore new ideas and take the risk of going in a new direction, not knowing if it was gonna sell as well as what you were already making, if you needed to make sure that, the grocery bill could be paid or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely have to be an intentional, very limited amount of time to play with new ideas, which, you know,
Yep.
it is what it is. So I think having the job definitely gives you the freedom to be able to do that.
Bree's question, and we've talked a little bit about whiskey, but where the inspiration came from, because she was guessing a beloved family pet, but also what has motivated you to keep making them, which I thought was a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, I think that ideas kind of they'll run their course, right? And some ideas have more exploration to be had. And I kind of feel like I still have a lot to explore with the snoots. And I think that's what keeps me motivated to keep going. And it's like, I want to see what different types of noses look like. I just did one for an English bulldog that whose shape
Gosh.
was very different. Yeah. So I
You
think
didn't
there's
actually have to modify the mug because it was flat? I
no,
mean
they
that with
still
love for all the bulldogs listening.
yeah, but also that kind of comes back to the customs take a lot more time because every time I make a custom, there's a new puzzle to figure out on like how to make that specific dog. So I really have to balance. I can't just do customs because they just take so long, right? So I'm gonna have to figure out like how to proceed in like what I'm making because I also want to have enough snoots to like be in gallery shows and like have sales that, they're not custom. So yeah, that's a future me problem to still figure out. And I mean, that's kind of the fun of exploring your art and figuring out where you want to go with it.
Jenna would love to hear about balancing the two creative jobs, given the fact that one on the corporate side and one of your own practice. I think we talked about this a little bit in our graphic design, get me off the computer desires, but in case there was something else.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of I have to do what the client wants, right, for my day job. I work under a creative director. So I don't have like full and complete creative freedom to do what I want. It's also like very different creating something three-dimensional and tactile to designing. Like it's nice to have the balance of like doing things with my hands once I'm done pushing those pixels around. So yeah, I think they balance each other out, but when work gets busy and it's been quite busy, it's hard to still have the time to do the ceramics.
That's the conversation I've been having with myself a lot. Like, it's ironic that for the last few months, I've had more time to actually give to my creative practice because weekends actually exist now. And there's like, kind of more of a set schedule. But at the same time, I'm recognizing my natural productivity time is generally in the mornings. Like, that's when everything is flowing and you're going. And so if I keep my schedule your traditional 9 to 5, I'm going to give my best energy to that job. And not saying that that's, we're doing very worthwhile stuff. I want to be a good team member. I'm, passionate about what we're doing. But at the same time, I also want to have some energy reserve left for personal, whether that just be personal life, personal creative practice, whatever it might be. And like how you actually protect that. Mm, somebody send me a reference for who we should interview on that. I got no answers.
I also have to say that, like, being in perimenopause, like, the fatigue is real. The brain fog is real. So I honestly, like, it's been a little bit of a struggle the last couple months of, like, getting my shit together and, like, continuing on because I'm just fucking tired. I also forgot to mention, I work New York hours and I'm in California. So
I
I'm,
didn't know you had to work New York hours. This
Mhm.
explains a lot.
Yeah, I'm online at like 6 in the morning, my time. It's 9
Oof.
in the morning, New York people time, but yeah, I'm up quite early and I'm not a morning person. I'm like a midday person. I'm also not
Mhm.
like a super late night person. I think my like golden hour is early afternoon, but it's really hard when you've had to place all that energy up front in the day at 6 in the morning, like your brain's on, take my ADHD meds and like go. And
Mm.
then by early afternoon, mid to late afternoon, I'm just like tanking. So
I
I
was
don't
gonna
know,
say,
it's
at least you're done by 2? Question mark?
3-ish. The
Mm.
problem is though, like a lot of people are like, oh, she's in California. She could keep working. And like,
Not if
agencies.
you're on at 6. Uh-uh.
Yeah,
Then you should be able to be on at 9.
so I'm salaried and when we have a lot of work, I have to keep working. So yeah, it's hard to set those boundaries and have that balance. And the job market's been hard. So you kind of like that underlying message of like, you got to be a team player.
Mm. I hate the way that phrase is used. It makes me think of all things 2009 and 2010. So, moving on to Mary's question, because it's going to make you laugh if you don't remember. I'm going to do this in opposite order of what she wrote. Are there any plans to make customized vessels, cups, or mugs for other animal parts? She said in all caps, normal parts, okay, you know what I mean.
I was gonna say the other end of the dog doesn't sell as well, so,
Cats, there's your cat answer. Those sell well for cats. The little asterisk butts.
yes, that
Mhm.
is true. That is true.
Oh, but I could
But
see
if
you going to other animals, but maybe
yeah,
still noses.
I definitely wanna explore other animals. I've been like I have this idea in my head of, like, doing a really cute, like, cow nose. I think that would be kind of adorable. I don't know, we'll see. Like, it's to be explored, but it's hard when, like, so many people want snoots right now, and I'm like, "I gotta make snoots." I definitely wanna try and play with other animals. I mean, this technique is awesome. I wanna try a lot of different things. So, yes, but maybe.
But no butts.
But no,
I'm full of puns now. I'm on a roll.
I kinda thought it'd be really funny to do a yarn bowl with a nose on one side and a butt on the other, and the yarn comes out of the because, like
I was
okay,
thinking of it being the tail.
every dog owner is gonna understand a dog either
Grass.
swallowing grass or a shoelace or hair, right? And, like, they poop and they
As
they have the
soon as you
little
said
bit.
it, I was like, it's grass. Hendrik says
Yeah,
this with grass all the time, and then he gets real mad that I have to get it out.
yeah. Also, be very careful because if it's something long, it can damage their intestines, so just be mindful. Don't pull.
Gratefully, he's never eaten things he's not supposed to aside from grass. So we've never had a shoelace. Oh God, that feels
Yeah,
problematic.
Potato, when he was a puppy, ate a sock, a couple shoelaces, and a whole sweater sleeve.
Oh, also your dogs are not large.
No.
Um, I did know a English bulldog actually, that regularly ate socks and had to go to the vet and have procedures for them to come out. But
So Potato, like, grew out of this.
mhm.
Oh, the worst thing he ate, though, was a grill brush. I will never own a grill brush in my life.
Oh, how? What? Why would he
So
even?
Because, like, grill brushes have all the fat and
Well, the
stuff
meat.
stuck
Yeah.
yeah. So, just
Buddy.
short story, I came out, like, after he had his dinner, he was chewing something in the middle of the grass. I'm like, "Hey, buddy, what do you have?" And then I see, like, metal bristles everywhere. He had chewed and, like, eaten half of the bristles on a grill brush. And it was, like, 6 p.m., and I'm like, "Okay, emergency vet, like, let's go." I grabbed Mike, we're like, "We're going."
Mm-hmm.
Got him there, he got x-rayed. There is, like, brush bristles all inside his gut, everywhere. And
Everywhere.
I'm like, "Oh my god, my dog's gonna die. This is the worst thing
Right.
that's happened ever." They sent us home with the instructions of feeding him 3 to 4 times a day and adding fiber to his diet to push everything through, and then get x-rayed again, a week later. He was
Mm-hmm.
clear. I think we got lucky. Because I've seen, like, the shows with the horror stories of a person swallowing a grill brush thing and, like, it staples their intestines together.
But
I
also,
thought
what person is swallowing a grill brush?
there
Anyways, they come off on the. Anyway.
yeah, they come off on the grill. There was a story about this kid who had, like, swallowed one, like, in something that he was eating that his dad had grilled, and he had this medical emergency, was in the hospital for weeks, and from one bristle. So and I have this going through my head when we're driving Potato to the vet ER, and I thought, like, he was a goner. I mean, Potato's 20 pounds. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, we got
This
really
is
lucky with that one.
this is not to say we're not careful with Hendrix, but this is one thing we've learned over time. It is a matter of, what they can handle dependent upon their size is rather drastically different because he's now pushing 80 pounds. And a couple of years ago, when we first moved up here, we left a bag of cherries on the middle of the dining room table. And now, granted, we put things in the middle, we don't keep it on the edge, but we didn't think he would jump completely onto the table. He got down an entire bag of cherries, ate the entire thing except the plastic, stems, pits, whole shebang. Like, literally had just gone to the grocery store. We probably had had a handful of them. So we get home, and there's just this empty plastic bag on the ground. And I'm like, okay. Of course, I then Google if cherries are toxic to dogs. And I don't just listen to anything on the internet. So I'm going to reputable, like, American Kennel Society or something. I'm not just going to go down whatever rabbit hole. And it's like highly toxic. Never let your dog have a cherry.
The pits,
And I'm like,
right?
especially the pits. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
he's eaten everything. So I'm prepared to, like, okay, is he going to start vomiting? We watch him for a day. Barely slowed him down. Didn't even have any, like, digestive problems. I never saw a pit come out. I'm sure it did. Didn't have to go to the vet. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm grateful.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
man. We
whereas
could
I'm
spend, like, 3 episodes of, like, dog
dog
stories.
story.
Like,
It's true. It's true. I will bring us back to the questions. The real question from Mary was, what do you enjoy about the super focused details? Because you are always bringing the small designs into focus in cool ways. Direct quote.
oh, thank you, Mary. I just get lost in carving. It's one of those things that, when you're a kid and you go to the ocean, you're playing in the water, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like a half a mile down the beach. You don't realize that the current has pushed you along. It feels that way when I get into that flow focus of, like, I'm carving and I just don't realize the time is passing. And all of a sudden it's like, feels like 10 minutes later, but it's like 5 hours. I haven't eaten. I haven't gone to the bathroom. It's like that. And I think that's what allows me to, like, focus and, like, be able to carve, like, every little detail on the dog nose because I get into that little flow. And it just feels really good. I don't know how to explain it. Just that flow state.
That's interesting to think about because I wonder how many things in our lives we get that focused on. And, like, I'm thinking especially in terms of ignoring phones and notifications and screens and just having, like, how important it is to have a thing that can bring you into that place of being able to focus. And I'm imagining that's part of why it feels so good, because everything else is so segmented and our attention is so segmented so frequently now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely, I also don't think that every brain works in the way that like allows you to have that focus, right? Like,
Hmm.
I think there's something to be said of like being neurodivergent and being able to go into that flow state and just forgetting about the rest of the world, that not everyone gets to be able to do that. I don't know.
That's your gift of neurospiciness.
Yeah, what one of the many.
I did say gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah,
Um,
they're not all good gifts.
I was gonna say there's a dark side and a light side to all things,
Yes.
just like the moon. Anyway, before we get incredibly philosophical, however, I think I'm leaving you with the biggest question for last. Not intentionally, this was just chronological, but Alicia asked, so many Potter's goals are to go full time or to sell to make a living, but she does not believe that that's what your ultimate goal is. So, what is your ultimate goal for your pottery? What's the big dream you're aiming for? And, oof, I didn't finish this last question. Holy cow, deep breath. What is it that you want your pottery to do for the world? Dang,
Wow.
Alicia.
That's a deep one. So, yeah, I'm not, it's nice to make money off of pottery, but it's not like the goal, right? Like, I want to just have joy and enjoy my life and have fun making stuff. I think what I would love to impart for my pottery to impart upon the world is just to be able to take the time and notice the details of stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why I like carving a lot of detail into what I do, is because I want you to pick up that snoot or the crocodile eyeball or the leaves that I'm making years later and be like, wow, I didn't notice that little thing. Like, I've held this thing so many times and you're still discovering new things about it. I also like connecting, like having people connect with whatever's on that cup, right? If it's a snoot, just like the joy of connecting with a dog's nose, like, and really appreciating what a wondrous thing a dog's nose is. I don't know. If I can make one person like appreciate a dog nose that much more, mission accomplished.
I love that. This sparked a question of my own. I almost don't want to ask it because it's so logistically boring. And what you just said was so lovely that I'm like, that's the ending. I shouldn't keep going. But, you know, I'm going to ask it anyways because now I said that out loud. I was just thinking earlier, and Alicia did reference this in the first part of her question, that we were talking earlier about this balance between the day job allowing you to have some freedom of exploration and focus on the joy and not worry about the finances, and yet also taking the craft and your work and a business in many ways. I think a lot of people think of themselves as side hustlers, and so they don't think of themselves as business owners, but you are still. It's still legitimate. What is it about having goals like you got published in Ceramics Monthly last year, about wanting to get into galleries? Like, from my perspective, some of those are very pragmatic things to grow a name, to be known for your craft, that have a financial benefit to them ultimately. Like, to me, those are levers of, a marketing strategy, someone could argue. But if that's not the ultimate goal, how do those play into, this balance, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. I think for me, it's creating a safeguard for the future if I do need to kind of pivot and make this my full-time gig. If for whatever reason, like AI takes over all of our, art director jobs, like, what do I do? At least I'll have that to rely on. But I think more importantly, like, I find so much joy in what I make that I want to share it with people. And like being in galleries is a good way to do that, right? Like it's not so much about like, oh, look what I made. It's just having people discover something that I know will give them joy. And
Hmm.
I think that's really the fun part for me. Seeing people delighted at and being able to boop a nose and finding it so much fun. And I just love watching people look at my work and they turn to the person that they're with and they're like, wow, look at that. It's so realistic. It looks like, Willie's nose or whatever. It's just like, that's just fun. It's just fun to see people find happiness in something, especially these days where things are pretty heavy.
So good. I could keep going. I'm also acutely aware of that we could just talk for like 4 hours, and I'm going to have to cut us off at some point. And also aware of when our dogs all expect to be fed. So that's really more the driving
Or
force
get the
on my
walk.
end. Right, exactly. They've
Wait, you
given up
wanted
on
to
us.
ask about the powerlifting. Did you want to ask about the powerlifting? You don't have to.
I mean, listen, there are so many facets of Debbie that will not be contained within one episode. And I think what we're saying here is that people should probably just come meet you in the community to learn about powerlifting and motorcycles.
Yes.
Like things you might not expect from the Snoot Queen.
I
Shameless
mean,
plug.
all things in my past. Yeah, no, hey, like the community's awesome. I think like the hangouts are invaluable. I think to a lot of us in the information that we exchange, the feedback that we can get, like the direct feedback. It's kind of like a little co-working session. I don't know. It's awesome. I just
Yay.
selfishly want more people to be a part of that so we have more brains to pick.
Oh, groupthink is like such a powerful thing. Perfect example being the first thing that you mentioned was the power of the Hangouts. Weren't my idea. I didn't invent the co-working Hangouts for the community. That was a member, Yvonne, who said, hey, can we do this thing? And so we made it happen because there was enough interest. And yet they're probably one of the most talked about things, which is exactly why I never wanted it to be a place where it was like, I am here and this is what you shall do. And this is, it's completely different from a course that you buy and you just listen to the person who are entrusting to be the expert, tell you how to do the thing, and that's it. Move on. Like it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. Which I love. Like that's the best part is like it's so much stronger because of groupthink, 100%. My dream, I don't know if I've ever told you this, my absolute dream is like a maximum of 300 people because
Hmm.
we hover right around 100 right now. And 300 in the world of like online membership sounds crazy small to most people in that space. And I'm excited by it because I want it. Number one, the goal of infinite growth is not my goal ever. Like quality over quantity, always. But also 300 to me, in comparison to attending conferences, I've been at conferences before. Obviously, NCCA's thousands of people, but I've been at ones that are 200 to 300, and it's just enough people to have that power of groupthink, to have a broader diversity of voices and life experiences, geographic locations, have there be enough people where you could have like the Sydney co-working hangout and the LA time zone co-working hangout, and have there be enough people within that to connect with each other, but not have there be so many people that it feels anonymous, that you
Yeah.
don't remember, that Bill can't keep track of everybody's birthdays the way he does, that it's just so huge you feel like you've slipped away into to the abyss of how many people, or that there's, it's overwhelming or what have you. Because there's plenty of places online that are massive size groups that have endless amounts of resources. And if that's all you're looking for, cool, go there. It's just a different thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what we'll do whenever we reach that. Cause one day I think we will reach it. Maybe we'll have to have like a waiting list. And
Ooh.
then and then you have to like up to stay active. I don't know. I'm like, we got time to figure this out. But just to say, that's always like that balance between big enough to have the power of that group think and diverse voices, and at the same time small enough to still be intimate and feel like everyone's middle name or something.
Well, it's always good to think about that pipeline, right? Because, like,
Mm.
you never want to get caught at that moment and then figure out, like, oh no, now I have to figure out how to handle it at this size. So, yeah.
And it's just a completely going back to what we were saying in terms of business model for makers and deciding to curb your capacity for custom snoots. Me saying I only quote unquote want a membership of 300, like that number's still really big in a lot of ways. But when you're in the online space, generally speaking, your online educators, your influencers, your course creators and membership people and all this stuff, most people making a full-time living from that, you're talking about thousands, if not tens of thousands of students or members or whatever. And it's just like, nah,
Yeah.
let's figure out a different way.
That's a lot.
So
That's a lot to handle.
well, then you have to have like a bunch of assistants that are managing it. And then like the person who started it might not be like as involved because you're having to manage all this other stuff. Like, nah, no thanks.
Yeah.
Not my jam. So, anywho, where should we send people on the internet to come see the snoots if they haven't seen the snoots and anything else you're doing on the World Wide Web?
The main place to find me is Instagram. And I also have a TikTok, but it's very tiny. But my Instagram and my TikTok are both at curiosibee.art. So it's like curiosity, but with a B-E-E. And then I also have a website, curiosibee.com. And I have a mailing list. And if you want a custom snoot, joining the mailing list is the best way to find out about that because I announce it to my email list first. Usually it sells out before I have a chance to announce it on social media. So, yeah, that's where to find me.
Which is awesome, which is really the dream for us all to not rely on social media personally. But hooray! As I attempt to wrap this up and do a terrible job of landing the plane, do you want to explain the name of Curiosibee? Because I feel like we've talked about that a lot before and people don't get it.
So I'm just a very naturally curious person. So I was looking for cute names, and Bee refers to my name, Debi. It means queen bee in Hebrew. I actually have a tattoo of a bee on my arm with a little crown on it. So I already have a crown. So the snoot queen kind of fits in to that.
It was
But
destined.
anyway, it was destined. So yes, Curiosibee just comes from mashing curiosity with the B part of my name together.
Love it. Love it. All right, we will put a link in the show notes for people to come find you, or they should just come find you in a hangout in the community.
Yeah.
And
hang out
end
with
of
me.
shameless plugs. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rebecca. This was fun. It was my first podcast, so it was exciting.
Hooray!
Yay.
I hope this conversation with Debi has given you a little bit of permission to think differently about what taking your making practice seriously actually has to look like. Because I think a lot of us have absorbed this idea that if demand is there, you have to meet it. That anything else is leaving something on the table, or worse, not being committed enough to the thing that you say you care about and dream about going full-time with. But what Debi is doing is something I think is quite radical, even if it looks really quiet from the outside. She knows why she makes. She knows what the making gives her personally. And she has decided, very deliberately, that no amount of outside enthusiasm gets to override that joy. If you're someone who's been feeling pressure to open up more slots in custom work, take more commissions, find a faster way of making the thing that you love to make, or just generally do more with whatever momentum you're experiencing, it's okay to say no to some of that. It's okay to keep the thing small enough so that it still feels like yours and like the thing that got you excited in the first place. And if you're someone who still has a day job and has been quietly wondering whether that makes you less, air quotes, of a real, air quotes, maker, I want you to really hear this. First of all, if you have ever collected sales tax on a piece of art that you have sold, yes, even to a friend, yes, even as a one-off market, a pop-up, or something really informal, even just a handful of times, you, my maker friend, own a business. Maybe it's a micro one, maybe it's an intentionally small one like Debi's, but it is still a business. You don't get to downplay that just because it doesn't pay for your health insurance yet. The breathing room that comes from not needing your craft to cover the bills right now is not a consolation prize. It might actually be what's allowing you to build something with integrity, to take creative risks, to find your version of Debi's snoots without having to abandon ship if the first ideas don't actually sell very well. And I'm not saying to go make your own snoots. I mean, make something that you love as much as Debi loves the snoots. You get what I mean. The point that I want you to hear loud and clear, my side hustling or side sauntering friends, you are still a business owner. The path Debi is on doesn't look like most business advice you'll find on the internet. And that's exactly the point. Her work sells out because people can feel that it was made with joy, not mass-produced. Maybe some would say intentionally small batches is part of a sales or marketing strategy, and in some ways, sure it is. But ultimately, at its core, it's just what happens when you protect the thing that made you want to make what you make in the first place. This is what is so very different about our maker businesses compared to your basic e-commerce or other broad business advice you're going to find on the internet. While some might think the goal is to scale, and grow to the point where you've outsourced pretty much most of your business, maybe including the making, and you get to go lay on the beach and log into your laptop once a day and simply watch it work and answer the occasional email. If that's your goal, that's totally cool, and that's fine. But I'm guessing that for most of us, that the love of clay on our hands, the joy that comes with finishing a new piece or unlocking a new skill you've been trying to figure out for the last few months, I'm assuming the goal for most of us makers is not actually to outsource our making, but instead to have more time to make more. And that pretty dramatically changes the scalability conversation. Now, I feel like I'm starting a whole other subject here that could be its own episode onto itself. So if this interests you, then let me know and we can dig into it more. Send me a DM on Instagram at The Maker's Playbook or an email hello@makers-playbook.com. I'm always looking to learn about what you want to hear about on this podcast. Trust me, I don't want to just be sitting here by myself trying to come up with ideas. And of course, as always, if you're trying to figure out what version of this business, small, micro, side hustling, whatever it is, whatever the vision of this looks like that is right for your unique life, then you don't have to sort it all out by yourself. There are makers inside the community right now who are at every stage of this process. Some who are full-time, some who are happily and intentionally not full-time, and some who are somewhere in the middle, still figuring it all out. If you want to be in the room where those conversations are actually happening, then come find us at makersplaybook.com/community. One more time while you probably wipe the mud off of your hands, it's makersplaybook.com/community. Until next time, my friends, go get back to making your dreams a reality, because together, we've got this. Audio post-production of this podcast is made possible by help from Christy Kotzfan, with promotional material assistance from Queenie Maliki. The Maker's Playbook podcast is recorded on the original homelands of the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee people, where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present.